Hey, good night, everyone. Welcome to the Meeting of the Minds podcast. Today's episode is Role Models. And tonight we have here with us a very special guest, Joanna Smith of Daley Smith Incorporated. Joanna, it's so great to have you here. Thank you for being here.
Thank you so much for having me, Gabriel.
And tonight with us on the panel, we have Christy, Alex J, and Brother Ray. All right, so Ray, I'm going to let you take over and do your thing, brother.
All right, guys. Welcome to the Meeting Minds podcast. Our special guest from the Daily Smith S.T.E.M. How are you, Joanna?
I am well, Brother Ray. Thank you for asking.
All right. So, my first question for you, since we're just going to jump right in, is what made you want to start a STEM program? Matter of fact, let's back up. Let's back up. I'm sorry. What is STEM for those who don't know?
Great question. I'm so glad you asked. So, STEM is an acronym for science, technology, engineering, and mathematics.
Mhm.
And I'll just hop into your second question. As a geotechnical engineer, geotechnical engineers design foundations for structures on land and also in water. So that's bridges, that those are like tunnels, um, construction on like major highways and such. I'm actually driving on the New Jersey Turnpike. This was one of my baby projects where I had to do design for foundations for those signs that you see, that are on the road telling you where to go. We were changing those out from like the
Ooh, poor
I
connection.
think we lost her.
Oh, I was gonna say, was that just me? Like, was I the only one who missed that? Yeah, I was worried about that with her like traveling. Um,
Okay, hold on.
oh, there she goes. Welcome
There
Okay,
you
back.
go.
awesome. Sorry about that. Okay, so this was my baby's New Jersey Turnpike project, and basically, I always in eighth grade I knew I wanted to be an engineer. I saw signs that said "women working on the road" or "men working on the road," and I said, "I'm going to be the one who's working on the road as a woman." And I know I went online and typed in engineering or men working on the road as civil engineering popped up, and I was like, "That's exactly what I'm going to be." And so when I went into the industry, I saw that there were not as many people of color, working alongside me. And I also saw that I didn't see as much information about kids getting into engineering as I desired. Um, and because of that, I decided that I would be the one to help to create that, make that change. Um, being a part of many different professional organizations like American Society of Civil Engineers, the Foundation Institute, um, National Society of Black Engineers. They were doing work, but I felt like it wasn't hitting the Bronx area. Um, a lot of the programs were in Manhattan and Brooklyn and just different areas that didn't necessarily fit in my zip code. And I said, well, I want to see students of color diversify the STEM industry. And the only way, at least that I could see it being done, is by exposing students to STEM at a young age. So that K through fifth grade, K through 12, we work with K through 12, but the speciality for me is really that K through fifth grade to get them young before they can even think that they are incapable of doing anything.
Okay. So, what are some of your likes, and then what are some of your dislikes with what you do?
My life is really just getting students from a regular understanding of math and science to the next grade level above, and also incorporating STEM in a fun way. So our program stands on three major pillars. One is coding music, so using Python to code um, music. So like you were talking about some celebrities earlier on. Gabriel and Christy and Alex, just as a team. And I know Dr. Dre, Snoop, had made some beats. And basically, what we did in the class was we coded a few of their songs, like using Python and using the code, in conjunction with the actual music notes of the piano or of the drum or whichever, to create that same thing that they would have done manually with just using code. So that's the way that we approach them, really to get kids to like it. And I love that portion. We also have a roller skating and math portion where students understand the physics of roller skating, and then we actually like skate. And they take the skates apart. They understand like clockwise, what is it, clockwise? I want to say anti-clockwise, but I feel like I'm saying that wrong. The opposite
Counter
direction, right? Thank you. I'm like,
counterclockwise.
it's not anti, counterclockwise. We got an engineer here. Counterclockwise, and then just understanding like impulse, velocity, acceleration. You know, friction forces, which when we start talking about physics, sometimes it can seem really scary. But when I show, oh, this is a carpet, this is, a hard floor, this one has water on it. Do you think that the coefficient of friction will go up or go down based on those concepts? And so it's fun, it's interactive, and then the students get to learn how to skate. So I think I would say, and I'm also plug a skate instructor, so we have a class every Sunday teaching kids how to do this as well. But I think that's what I really like about it, because it's innovative, it's different, it's unconventional, and that's the way that I really got into STEM. My father was asking me to fix printers, and I was like, at home, and I was like, why did he think I could do that? But without equivocation, I did it because he believed that I could do it. And so, I was always working with my hands. So I'm like, okay, engineering is fun, it's cool. So that was my approach. And so that's how I approach it now. What I don't like, um, I'll say the most challenging part is really just learning how to delegate within your team. Our goal is to, what is going on here? Our goal is to, this phone, this will work. Our goal is to expose 500,000 students to STEM. That's a very big uh, number. And so I think just delegating to the people who I know and those who I don't know who I have to reach is kind of like, I don't want to say the part I don't like, but the challenge. So yeah.
Mm, okay, that's what's up. So who were? Oh, go ahead, Gabe. I'm sorry.
All right, so Joanna, you mentioned something about coding songs. How does one code? Was it the song itself, or the MP3 or the lyrics? Like how does that work?
Oh yeah. So it's the MP3. So it's more of the actual melody line of the song. And basically the code would say like, um, they would input like row, I don't know, like five or something, and basically that row five would be um, connected to like the notes on the piano, all 88 keys, and so it would it would basically syncopate to each note that you needed. Then it will also have the timing based on the code. But the program, I'm just going to plug, the program is called TunePad. It's a program completed and done by Northwestern University,
Wow.
which my friend is finishing his doctorate right now. So that's how I got him out here from Chicago to come and do some work with us. And it's just been a really great way to partner on coding music. We also use a program called Scratch, which is the MIT provided software, where you can code the music into the robots, as well as code the robots to move. So that's also a portion of the coding portion of the song of our program. So yes, it's more the melody line of code that we use. Gabriel.
Wow, that is
We're gonna
impressive.
pull it up next time. We're gonna pull up TunePad next next time. I'll be able to show you all how it works, guys.
Yes, definitely. I would love to see that.
So you
So
mentioned like having or seeing a lack of people of color in this field of STEM, right? Um, Outside of being a person of color, what about the I guess the presentation or the amount of women? Did you see a lot of women in this field? Is this something that did you want to get into as, to be a role model towards others? Like, is that something that was that part of the vision as well?
I love that. That was such a great question. There are okay. I don't know how to. So there are not a lot of women in engineering or in my field of study, but because I'm a part of organizations that really are a major hub for women, um, I don't necessarily see that as much, like the lack of women.
What are some of those
So
organizations, if you don't mind
sure,
sharing?
sure. So one of the organizations is called the Deep Foundation Institute. That's DFI. And the organization that's a subset of that is called Women in Deep Foundation. So WIDF. Okay. And as a part of that organization, I see and speak to a plethora of women who are geotechnical engineers. My manager at the time when I was in corporate was a woman. And then she hired another lady who was a woman, and it was just all females working alongside me in the engineering
Nice.
field. Um, the only time I would see men, and usually I would be the only woman overseeing a lot of the projects, was, when I was in the field. But I was always respected by the men in the field. And so, I was the queen in the field. Whatever I needed to get done went. I had no issues. It was almost like they were so excited to see a woman out there. And so even though there's a lack of women in STEM, I didn't see it as much because of all the organizations I was a part of. The Women in Deep Foundation is one. There's another program called SWE, SWE, Society of Women Engineers, is another program and an organization I work alongside. And I'm trying to think about when you spoke about role models. I didn't necessarily go in to be a role model. I just always loved engineering. I loved the mathematics behind it, and also just the science of seeing how things, worked in equilibrium. But what I am seeing now is that because I have, this STEM organization, and because I have a lot of, programs in STEM, I'm seeing a lot of young ladies step up,
I was
or
just
their
going to ask
grandmothers.
that. Like, what is the diversity in your program? Do you see more boys or more girls?
I see
Is it
more girls. I
nice? I
definitely
love
see
to hear
more
that.
girls. The first year we ran our summer STEM camp, I would say it was proportional, like it was 50-50. The second year, we definitely had more more girls than boys. And then this year, all the calls that I would say at least 50% of the 75% of the calls that I've been getting have been girls. Like when people are like, oh, I want to put my granddaughter in this. She's 15. I want to put my little girl in here. She's 5. You know what I mean? So our camp ranges from 4 years old to 15 years old. I know it's a very wide range, but we do it like that, and we have, it's almost like classes, right? Um, but a lot of young women coming to the forefront and saying, hey, I want to get involved in science, tech, engineering, and math too, and I want to be introduced to this. Or their grandparents or their mothers saying, oh, there's a young lady that looks like you, and so you should, I feel safe. Then I feel safe. I feel like this is a space she can totally be in, and she won't be intimidated by it, and she sees a role model. So I didn't go in with the intention of that, but I do see that happening much more, which is a beautiful thing.
I'm about
Some
to say it
organizations,
sounds.
yeah, go ahead.
No, I was going to say it sounds phenomenal that the fact that in a field where I guess historically women in general weren't really seen, that the next generation is now taking an interest and coming forward and saying like, listen, I'm here, and that you're there also, right? Providing that space, providing that opportunity for them to learn as young as 4, right? And to become interested in this field overall. No, that's amazing.
And I love that you said that because we have, in the beginning stages of this. There's a lot of sponsorship that's required to make this work, right? You know, they say money makes the world go round, or the Caribbean they say, what is it, ma? Horse gallop. Money make the horse gallop. Like, yes, that's a reality too, right?
Mhm.
And so what we're seeing, and that can also be a little challenging. I don't like, sometimes it's uncomfortable, but it's not about asking for money. It's more of, hey, we need to make the world go round. We need to see more people that look like us. We need to start exposing students to the coding and the engineering and the science now. Don't you want to be a part of this legacy, right?
Mhm.
And so we have a organization called Donta, which is a women organization. I believe they are international as well. Some other folks that are working alongside us to sponsor students through the STEM camp. They are now asking, hey, can this be a all? Is there any way that we can like sponsor an all girls pod, out of the program? And so it's so powerful that you said that, because even though we don't, it's not the program is not limited to only girls. There are organizations that are looking to work alongside only girls within the program,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm. Mhm.
So,
Mhm.
great question.
No, great stuff. Great stuff.
So would you then say that the program that you're a part of, since you said there's mostly girls there, would you say that they cater to minority girls or just girls of all spectrum?
The program caters to everybody, but the purpose of our mission statement is really to work alongside minorities in STEM and
Hmm.
to expose minority students to STEM in order to diversify the industry. So
Hmm.
that is what we're here for. Um, but we do cater to everybody, and there's emphasis on on minorities or students of color or black and brown, whatever way you'd like to say it. But we want to see more people in the industry uh, to create more diversity.
So then my next question is, what are some of the feedback you've gotten from the students that are part of your program?
The students that are part of our program are beyond elated. They are really excited. They enjoyed, I would say, the most that I've heard is the Lego and building and coding portion of the program. People could build Legos all day. It's
Hmm.
a mind game here. The portions that kids really, I would say, didn't really like, which I wasn't really expecting them to, is that they have to run these math problems and they have to solve this stuff. And sometimes it can be intimidating because, when kids come through our program, if they're in first grade, by the time they're done, they're doing second grade math. And so there's this portion of like, am I good enough? Do I understand it? Maybe I'm dumb. Like kids think like that, right? And so it is for us in Daley Smith STEM to say, no, you can do it. You can understand decimals, while you're in the first grade. It's not hard. And so I think that's the great part about, working alongside kids and really moving that needle, kind of challenging them, moving forward. But they really love the Legos portion. They love the building and the coding portion of it as well. And the roller skating. How could I forget that? A lot of, especially post
Yeah, I'm sure it's a
pandemic,
crowd favorite. Yeah.
right. In the post pandemic, a lot of kids are like, yeah, we love the learning. Like we didn't know that the roller skate like had a chuck and that, there were bearings inside and we didn't understand the rotation of it. But it's really the hands-on portion, the Lego building, the coding portion of it, the roller skating portion, the physics portion that really gets kids interested and excited about the application of STEM in their daily lives and for the action that they can take with it and actually, use not just now, but also for the future.
Okay. So my next question is to you and all the panel here. Um, so, who were some of your role models growing up, and do you guys consider yourselves as role models or want to be a role model?
Before we
Mm.
get to that, can I ask Joanna something, Raymond?
Go for it.
So, Joanna, I want to say, I'm a math teacher. I teach in the Bronx.
Okay. Oh, Alex. Okay.
It's just amazing to hear that like you make math fun and making students see that math is like involved in their everyday lives. I too try to do the same thing when I'm teaching math, and my question is like how, because I teach in the Bronx and I heard you mention the Bronx, and I agree, these kids, I see the lack of involvement and enthusiasm when it comes to like science and math and stuff like that. What are some of the things you do to recruit, and possibly how can I help with that?
Okay, so you're asking what type of things do we do to get students more involved in like the math and portion science?
Yeah, and making yourself more exposed to the community and stuff like that, and what I could possibly do to help.
Like
Oh,
what
what you can
methods
do?
do
Oh,
you use?
that's
Yeah, to
Yeah.
recruit. Yeah, to recruit new
that's a
students
great.
to benefit them.
So I would say right now, we're gonna start running our STEM camp. It would be great if you could could be, one of the teachers coming on if you're available for summer. But what we do is really for the math portion. I would say it's more involved internet wise and also on the paper math kind of writing stuff down. We also use Excel spreadsheets. So in first grade, my kids are learning how to, put an Excel function into Excel and get an answer out after manually completing their mathematics. So, using things like that, incorporating the technology as well as, the manual portion of the science and the mathematics is something that always keeps the kids engaged. Um, and I think those are the major things. And as I said before, the Lego portion of it as well, I think is very mathematical, conceptual wise.
Yeah.
And that's something that really gets them involved because depending on where the pieces are, they have to count and see where it is, and then understand kind of like the schematic and the anatomy of how things work. So I think those gave. I hope that gave a little bit of insight into kind of like what we do. Now you spoke about community wise. Currently, I think the major thing is getting the information out. So right now, I also sit on the precinct, the 47 council precinct, for the Bronx area, and I've been sharing our information with them. And I just think getting out to more precinct areas because the precinct community councils do work really closely with the community and just getting out there, speaking to the council persons like Jamal. Is Jamal still in? Well, Carl Heasty. I know there's folks. Kevin Riley, my councilman for the Bronx area. Vanessa Gibson, like really going hard in the paint on the personnel that represent our district and our community is another way that I am um, getting the program out there and really facilitating the change that I want to see. So we just had a meeting with Vanessa. Well, not we didn't have a meeting with her, but I just went to a community dinner. So I'm getting my face and my hands, in the spaces that they need to be. So yeah, Alex, we'll talk. We can
Yeah,
definitely.
I
I'm
love
always
that.
building community around STEM. We actually do. We do um a meeting at first. Sorry. Um, we do a meeting once every 2 months. Okay, we go out to a STEM museum,
Hmm.
and so the museum that we're gonna go out to, um, this we go. I think the next one is gonna be on the 20th. I'll keep you posted on that as well. But we take students out there and they have a blast. So every time I go to somebody's church or I'm somewhere, they're like, Miss Joanna, when are we going to another museum? And so I always find that beautiful because the parents and the kids as well, get involved with STEM. And that's really a way to continue to facilitate that process. So I
Yeah.
hope that answered your question. I know it was a long answer, but
Yeah.
just a
No,
little bit of some of the stuff I'm doing and how I'll be more than excited for you to get involved with it. Yeah.
we'll connect
All
definitely
right.
with these schools.
All right. Thank you. So you were asking about mentorship, right, Brother Ray?
Um, not necessarily mentorship, but more so of
Or who
so
has
who
mentored
are
us?
Yeah,
who
he
are
was
you
saying like
guys'
role
role
models,
models?
like
Role
Your
who
role
are
models.
model.
our
Yeah.
role
Thank you.
models,
Thank you.
and
That's the
Yeah.
word.
This for everybody though,
It's
not
very
and
just
do
for
nice.
we
you,
consider
Joanna.
ourselves to be a role model?
Yeah. So you can go first, Joanna.
Sure. So my mom is in the car with me. My mom has always been a role model for me, and she keeps talking. Uh, she's like, Dion, Dion. All right, but all right. So my mom has been a role model for me. She's always been a very hard worker. Always like working super late, doing these long nursing jobs and such. And so I think just realizing that you can go for your goals is always something that has been very powerful to see her do. And so I in my own way have also taken that approach. My dad as well, another role model. I remember my parents paid for me to go to piano classes, but my father used to not only do that, but he used to have me go out to churches and play, and then he would pay me, at the church that if they weren't paying me. And from that, I really realized that when I am, and I do run my own like praise team groups and such, but I realized that when I do go out and whoever is working with me, if my father could pay for piano lessons and then pay me on top of that to do ministry in a place that the ministry was being done, but they were like, oh no, we let her do this for free or whichever. When I saw that type of work, I said, anytime I'm working alongside somebody, I have to make sure that I'm giving them the resources that they need, you know what I mean? And resources like something tangible to work alongside. So I felt like that helped me in my journey as a businesswoman and as a owner of a program. My parents, just that hard work ethic, and also saying, make sure that you make people feel great, appreciated for the work that they've done with you. Another lady, and this will be the last one, is one of my ladies named Dion Jove. She is a performance architect, and it's just powerful working alongside her. She's always been there for me for whatever I needed. And I'm just like, she helped me get my finances together. She does like insurance and such. So understanding like foundations of how to build wealth, and how to pass that stuff on to generations, and just being available for people, out of the goodness of your heart because you want them to thrive, is definitely something I've recognized, through her being a role model for me. Um, Now, in terms of me being a role model, I think so. I mean, I always say, and not to, I don't, it's not to be cocky, but I really wish that I had more people. Like, I don't know if you could say you have so much stuff to do, you wish you could create a clone. Like, you
Mm-hmm.
just like, how can I multiply myself? And so my thing is mentoring different people in different realms of stuff. Like if I would like for you to do better on music, how can I make sure that you lead in that space so that you get used to doing that? So that you can create, the whole point to me of mentorship or role modeling is so that somebody can create their own prototype of whatever that thing is, right? So that you can literally triple and double yourself, and then they can do better than you, if that makes sense, right? And then you can always hire them or they can hire you later on, but you want to continue to multiply your impact, wherever you go through that role model um, approach.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
All right, cool. IMC, your go.
Yeah. Growing up, I always wished that I was like a person that kids looked up to, and then I remember back when I was in college, I used to produce music. Right, I still do, but I used to produce beats and record music in my studio. And my cousin at the time, he's only like 11 years younger than me or whatever, but he used to watch me in the studio. And from the age of 5, my dad was teaching him piano. So when it came time for him to make beats, he was a natural. But he was watching everything that I did. During the summertime, he would come over to the house and he began to develop his craft. And I saw him grow not only as a producer, but also as a rapper as well. So, he can play piano, he can produce beats, and he can rap. And one of the highlights of one of the highlights for me of his career was it was the day that one of his songs was played on Hot 97. And so that brought joy to me because I remember him being in the studio and just watching everything I was doing. Sometimes if I was doing a song, I'd be like, yo, I need you for a verse. So, in some ways, I guess you could say that, yes, I am a role model. And the other thing is that I didn't realize, sometimes, and it doesn't matter whether it could be kids in a neighborhood or a church, you got a lot of people that are watching you and watch what you're doing. I remember one person said to me, it was like, hey, listen, man, I like the work that you're putting up on YouTube. And, I realized they were referring to all these videos that I've shot over the last couple of years. And I didn't think anybody was watching. But then I go back and I see views 900,000, 300, and I'm like, wow. So there are people that are actually looking at my content. Somebody may be looking at that and be like, well, if he can go and learn how to operate a camera, I can do the same thing. I can follow my dreams. So yeah.
All right, cool. Christy, what's up next?
Um, as cliche as it sounds, I think my mom is definitely one of my biggest role models. I've seen her sacrifice over and over again for the good of her family. I don't aspire to have the necessity to make those kind of sacrifices, but I do aspire to have the tenacity that it takes to overcome it in spite of the circumstances, right? The persistence is definitely something to be admired. I mean, as a first generation American, right? Like our parents definitely started off with a lot less than we did, and yet they have, allowed us to have the opportunities that we've had today. So for sure, definitely one of my biggest role models, of course. And she's one of the people that I've seen or I've had my eye on the longest, right? Like she is my mom, everyday kind of situation. Um, as far as others outside, of course, we have like our aunts who we know their struggles quite personally. I have one aunt who really and truly is superwoman. With the S on her chest and the cape and all of that, I definitely consider her to be one of my role models. As far as me being a role model, I like to think so, right? I think it's one of those things where you can never be sure about the impact that you're leaving on someone, right? Even if you're not taking an active role like Joanna, like like you're actually like curating a second version of yourself, there is somebody looking at you, right? And your struggles and your testimony definitely has an impact and can come into play in somebody else's life in a way that you may not even be aware of, right? Something that you're struggling with, but persevering nonetheless, right? Very important. Somebody may see that and be like, that I want to be able to do that. And you may be very well be a role model in that person's life. So I think ultimately I inspire to live a life that's very integrous, very true to myself at the end of the day. And I hope that somebody will see that and be like, you know what, that's not a bad idea, but I can never be sure. But ultimately, I do aspire to be a role model. Hopefully that one day somebody will see me that way.
Cool.
What about you,
Alex,
Ray?
you're good.
You throwing it? You throw nope, not Alex. You, Ray. You
No,
throwing it
no,
at
no.
everybody. What about you? Who
I
is
listen.
your role model?
I'm
Kevin
going
Samuels?
last for a reason. I'm going last
No,
for a
you're not
reason.
going. Okay.
Yes. Go
Okay.
ahead, Alex.
I mean,
There's
for
nothing to the
me,
madness.
I came from a family of women. I'm the last of six, four older sisters. So I would say my role models are definitely black women. They
You're
work the
welcome.
hardest. Um, they work the hardest. Um, Historically, always been working the hardest. Right. Remarkable work ethic. I get my work ethic from looking at my sisters and always like pushing me to do my best, be my best, and stuff like that. Also, my mom moving here, as Chrissy said, first generation American. Well, I was born in Trinidad, but my mom moved here with basically nothing and made a life here. I was able to go to college and stuff like that, so I definitely had those opportunities. So I would definitely say black women as my role models. As far as me being a role model, I would say yes, because uh, I would consider myself a representation of students that look like me in the classroom, and also there's not that much black men in the realm of education. So just having young black boys, seeing somebody that look like them leading the classroom, teaching math, you know, they hopefully like I'm a role model to them. Y'all go, Ray.
All right, cool. Yeah, I know it's Michael. So as far as role models go, I would definitely say my parents, but more so my dad. He sacrificed a lot for my siblings and myself. There were days when he used to work for New York City Transit. He would work a lot of times like 16-hour shifts and then come back home to work again and then get maybe like probably 2 or 3 hours sleep and then to do it over again the next day. I would say that's where I get a lot of my work ethic from. Um, because he's always reminding me that a lazy man is an unproductive man, and someone who is idle with his time is idle with everything else. So he
Mhm.
always inspired me to keep going, to be, I try to live my life by the 4 R's. That's respectful, resilient, responsible, and reliable. And my dad definitely embodied a lot of those. As far as role models, me being a role model, I'm not sure because a lot of times I don't think I'm a role model, but people have pulled me to the side in different
And
areas of
that's
my
the
life and
thing.
say, hey,
Mm,
I'm inspired by what you did here
I'm
or your work
telling
ethic here. I never thought of myself as being a role model, but when people pull you to the side and, give you that respect or give you that love or appreciation, then it makes me want to continue on where I'm going now. Another role model, a celebrity role model for me anyway, is Lil Wayne. Um, He's definitely
Today,
somebody
wait. Lil Wayne today or Lil Wayne back in the day?
all around.
Okay.
Outside of how he physically looks and stuff like that, like he was one of those artists to me that like I would literally sit down and listen to like his wordplay on songs. I would watch all his vlogs, his concerts, and all that other stuff, and be like, this guy really knows what he's talking about. Aside from the subject matter or whatever, but like the way the entendres, double entendres, triple entendres, it makes you be like, wow, like only this person can think of that. And the fact that he was one of those people that just was consistently working, despite everything that had happened to him, album losses, the issue with Birdman and stuff like that. Like to me, I look at people like that, like if they can overcome those challenges and continue to keep pushing, to continue to keep working, that's someone who I want to be. That's something that I want to leave on this earth. Um, and yeah, that's pretty much it. So if you guys have any celebrity role models or people that you aspire to be, or even something that you live by, you guys are free to share. There's no order, so I'm not throwing anybody out there. But if you guys want to share, then that's up to you.
Honestly, I have a few celebrity role models. I mean, there's Quinta from Abbott Elementary. We have Tracy Ellis Ross, Taraji P. Henson. Um, not interestingly enough, but Meg The Stallion, as of late, and not necessarily because of her lyrics and her talent and her success, but literally the bravery, right? Because it took a lot for her to say, for her to come out with um the fact that Tory Lanez shot her. A lot of people talked a lot of junk about it. They were not polite at all, and yet she stuck to her guns. She told her story, and she showed up. Right? Women have notoriously been silenced at when it comes to acts that men have done against them, and she actively was like no, and she went to court and she won the case. Right? And she did it all personally with class. She didn't make it ugly. She was like, at the end of the day, the truth will come out, period. And it did, right? In my personal opinion. I know there are others out there who disagree, but at the end of the day, she told her story, point blank, period. And she was an advocate. I definitely admired her for that. As far as like success, I mean, the list goes on, right? We have Gabrielle Union, Regina King, all of these women who have made space for themselves in an industry that particularly was not necessarily kind to Black women, um, and showed up and showed out, right? So definitely some of my role models.
Anyone else? You guys are free to jump in.
For me, one of my celebrity role models, I would definitely say 50 Cent, because 50, like grew up in the streets of Jamaica, New York, came from nothing, you know, understood economics, supply and demand, and he took that within the industry, right? And look at him now, like he has his hands literally in everything. Like one of the biggest TV shows on TV, Power,
Power.
that whole Power Nation, that creates something major. You know, who else I could think of? The list goes on, but like that's one of my top persons, I would say.
Anyone else?
Yeah, one of my role models, I would have to say. Actually, I have two. The first one is Joyner Lucas. I literally saw this guy from the coming from the ground up. The first song I heard from him was Ross Cappuccini, and from there he just did his own stuff. Like he's not. I don't think he's signed to a major label. He's independent, and
He
he's been
is.
doing it for so
It's
long.
big. It's
Like
big.
2014, 2015. And another role model of mine would have to be Major Hype, because back in 2014
Mm.
I started watching
You
this.
said Major Hype?
Yeah, Major Hype.
Mm-hmm.
Now, back when he started, of course, the videos were low level, the quality wasn't good, but you could tell that there was comedy, you know. And I
Mm-hmm.
saw him grow from that point. It's literally been, I mean, he's been doing this thing since 2010 when he started doing music. He started actually singing first, and then he started doing these skits. But I've literally seen this guy grow in the last 9 years, and I wish that I could have the same
Emulate,
and be able to, come
replicate
across
the same
naturally.
success.
Because I remember at one point in time, YouTube was the main source of income for him, and then people started stealing his content. So he started posting there, and would start posting on Facebook and IG, and yeah, I mean, it's a blessing to be able to make people laugh and to have all these different characters, but for people to be able to relate, because he does uh Trini, Guyanese, Jamaican, Panamanian, Chinese. I mean, the list goes on and on and on, and he's able to relate. And so you probably got some people in the Caribbean that are sitting down and be like, "Yeah, I just went through that this morning," because the stories are relatable. You know what I mean? Even the stories that he be doing with the Rasta and what fire for that. You know what I'm saying? So it's I appreciate Joyner Lucas and Major Hype, because they've shown you that no matter what, you can rise to the top. Another person I'd like to throw in there is J. Cole. And let me tell you something, that's one of the most humblest dudes in the world. But like, he makes his music, he doesn't bother anybody, he doesn't get involved in any conflict or drama. He just does what he has to do, and he makes sure that he secures the bag every time. So yeah, that's all I gotta say.
John, anyone for you?
Oh, sure. I have two. Um, One is Leandria Johnson, and I know, she gets a loud flag. People like, oh, she da 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 da. But what I love about her is that she's overcome so many struggles, and she keeps going. Her voice is, to me, just phenomenal. And you can feel when she sings. Like, it's the experience is just extraordinary. I'm like, man, like, if you didn't go through all this stuff, like, would you be this impactful? But I just think she is such a force to reckon with vocally, and just her tenacity and resilience, as a gospel singer. Um, and then Doobie Powell.
Hmm. Hmm.
Doobie Powell, I don't know. Some people consider him a celebrity. I do personally. Some people may feel like he should have more clout, and he always talks about that. But I think what gets me the most with him is um his his drive to be right about what he believes, and he doesn't care whether other people don't agree with his stand on truth. And he's just also an amazing musician overall, um, and has worked with so many different celebrities on all different fronts, but is very quiet about that, and also just comes from a very musical family. Kevin Powell, the whole Doobie Powell squad and family. So those are my two role models. I just love that they just keep moving forward against all odds, and are just very strong in who they are and what they believe in and what they're doing, um, to really change the trajectory of the industry based on what they're called to do and their purpose.
Loki, that kind of reminds me of Kurt Franklin, like way
Yeah,
back in
Kirk
the
did
day.
not care.
Yeah.
You
Remind
think
me
that
of Kurt
gospel music has
Franklin.
gone too far? You thought we
Hmm.
were too radical with our message, and he just didn't
Hmm.
care. But
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, those are my two.
Remind me of Kurt Franklin. But we talk about role models, but we never really define what a role model is. So what would you guys say is the definition, in your opinion, of a role model?
Well, realistically, a role model is somebody who is just a person that gets up every day and they do what they got to do, you know? Like how you mentioned how your father would work 16-hour shifts and then go home, go to sleep for 2 hours, and then wake up again. It's someone that you can admire, someone that has hard work and tenacity, and that no matter what, they're still telling you, like, hey, listen, you could be like all these other people out here, or you could look at my example and just follow that. And the thing is, nobody's looking to be a role model at all, but it's just you doing your daily task. You're not thinking anything of it, but you got people that are watching you like, hey, I know him. He wakes up every day at 5 o'clock in the morning to get ready to open up his store. He cooks his food, has it ready for the customers. He's constantly greeting them. He's making orders. He's on the phone. You got some kids that are looking at their parents right now, and they're watching everything that they're doing. Sometimes even teachers can be role models. And it's not only the things that you say, but sometimes it's just the things that you do. And there's a lot of wisdom that comes across. So I think anybody could be a role model. You know, as long as you're doing something, you're going to be a role model. As long as it's positive.
Yeah, I think a role model is just someone that others up to or towards with the intention of imitating or being like. Um, I think all of the people that we mentioned, from family to celebrities to artists, are just people with whom in some way we wish to emulate, right? Whether that's their success, whether that's their drive, whether that's their presence, whether that's their um, just who they are. Like something about them you want to imitate and replicate in your own life. I think that's what like a role model is.
For me, I think, as she said, someone that leads by example. Like everything that you believe in, and you show that within your actions, basically, right? You can't just be a good person and not do good. You know, um, I think that's what to me defines what a role model is. Leading by example.
Yeah,
Sean,
to me,
anything from you?
a role model is a person or persons that you look up to. There may be things like you don't have to copy everything, or you don't have to, you know, um, really want to be exactly like that person, but you can definitely take major lessons, or just things from each person or each role model that you appreciate, and emulate that.
Would you guys say that there's a such thing as a bad role model?
Mm, there's always the
I mean,
You can be honest.
I think no one's perfect, right? I think most people are just trying to figure it out at the and just the same way that good habits and good things can be copied and imitated unintentionally, the bad ones can be too, right? How many times have you heard of children replicating or performing the same actions that their parents have performed in their lives, right? Whether that's the aggression or whether that's the abuse, right? They do that to their own children or to their own families. Like poor behavior, poor habits can be learned and repeated over time throughout the generation. So, yes, I do think that you can have poor examples, but they're also like positive role models, right? I wouldn't define those as positive role models, but I think that's kind of like where we are, what we're referring to when we talk about like role models typically. Something that should be imitated or replicated, not necessarily something that or someone who performs behavior that shouldn't. But yes, there can be bad role models as well.
I agree because this um, children, especially their minds, are impressionable, and they act out what they see. So, um, if my child is seeing me doing something that I know is wrong, and I continuously doing it around them, naturally they'll adopt that behavior too. So, I would definitely say yes. There can be bad role models out there.
I didn't see anything from you.
Yeah, of course. One thing I think of is back in the day when rappers used to get slack for some of their explicit lyrics. They used to be like, "Yo, I'm not a role model." I can remember one particular interview that Dame Dash and Cameron from the Diplomats had with Bill O'Reilly,
I remember that.
and there was a principal that appeared on that program and was like, "Listen, I love rap, I love you guys, but I just feel like the messages that you're sending." He's like, "Listen, we're not role models. We're talking about what goes on in our hood. That's just it. Child doesn't have to listen to it. It's parental advisory. If the parent is not watching the child, that's the parent's fault." So even when you think you're not a role model, um, even when you think you're not doing bad, trust me, like bad role models exist. When you say like, "Oh, no, I didn't set out to be a role model. That's not my fault." Well, here's the thing: children are watching you. Even the movie Clockers is a good example of a bad role model. If anybody's seen Clockers in the movie, um, strikers around this drug dealer making bad choices, and then you got this kid Tyrone who um is following him. You know what I mean? Like he's looking up to him. There's a scene in the movie that like breaks my heart literally, where Tyrone has a piece, and for those of you who don't know, a piece is a weapon or a gun, and he's trying to give it to Strike. Strike keeps on blowing it off, right? And because Tyrone knows what's going on, and he sees Arrow, the other drug dealer, he goes and he shoots him, and that's just a product of number one of his environment, but number two, he really held on to this dude so much that he was willing to do anything, and to kill for him to protect him. But yeah, there are bad role models. Even when we don't want to assume that, there are. So if I'm doing something bad, somebody might look at me and be like, "Yo, what's good with this guy?" Because they look at everything. You can even find bad role models in church, but that's another story for another day.
Ooh, you can't just drop that and be like, "Oh, another story for another day." Yeah.
Where is it?
Bro, I agree.
I mean, let's talk about it. You brought it up, Gabe. Let's talk about it. You said they're bad role models in church. Let's talk about it.
They
What
don't
makes somebody a bad
they
role
don't
model in
practice what
church?
they preach. Quite literally, right? I'm not saying this for it happens in all churches, you know, the pastor's gonna be married, and then the pastor's talking to different women of the congregation, stuff like that. Um, Using the collection money for their personal in their personal life, buying like the money from the collection supposed to go towards the church and the needs of the church and stuff like that. The pastor is out here driving a Maybach, right?
Mhm.
Yeah. We got one dude whose church got robbed last year. I won't name any names, but he exists. And
Mm.
the real estate guy, that's what we'll call him. Well, that's
Mm.
what I'm gonna say. I ain't gonna say no more. I'm done.
You think he's a bad role model? Why?
Does he not spread a positive
He's a
message?
man. He's a man of God. He preaches.
Let me tell you something. Why are you wearing
People at the same time.
1,000 and change on your neck? Tell me why you got all these rings. Like you look like a pimp. Like let's keep it 100. And then you would
It's
Because
charge.
he don't fit
wait,
your
wait.
aesthetic.
No. Because this dude says he works in real estate, and then he ended up taking $90,000 from some old lady, and didn't get paid. I don't know if the feds came after him or something like that.
Yeah, FBI roped them out.
Yeah, and then after that, nothing happened. But yeah. But we're gonna stay on the church topic and just stay on topic of regular role models. Let's not get people any energy tonight. You know what I mean?
Nah, I mean you brought it up. We
No,
here
no.
now. We here now.
I wasn't bringing it up for that purpose. I said that because you can look at people, choir director, deacon, usher. You know what I'm saying? Sometimes somebody can say the wrong word to you, and it just throws off your whole spirit. You know what I mean? And we have to be careful how we speak to one another, because the church can be harsh sometimes, and they'll tell you, "Yo, that dress is too tight." Yeah, okay, understandable, but there's a different way that you can say it. Oh, why are you wearing sneakers coming to church? Be happy that I'm in the house of God and I'm not at home on some corner all day. Like, let me tell you something. When I go to work and I gotta pass by the Ave, these dudes, I'm seeing them, they have no ambition. All you hear is like, yo, sound. Like, do something that's impactful and important with your life. Because look, you got some of these young kids that are looking at these dudes, and in 10, 20 years, they're gonna be doing the exact same thing. Like, yo, how can you be 40 something, 50 something, you still hanging on the corner? Don't you know someone's looking at you? Don't you know that you are, whether or not you'd like to realize, you are a role model, whether it's a negative or positive impact. So we have to be careful,
Well, I
Like
think it's also
sometimes,
something to be said too about the circumstances of the person, right? You don't know what led them to their current situation. I'm pretty sure they didn't say like, you know what, when I grow up, I aspire to be on the Ave,
A pusher.
right?
of course,
In that capacity. So I think it's very important that we do have positive role models available for kids, and not just the poor ones, right? And we have programs such as the STEM programs where they can come and have positive influences and give back, right? So like you were talking about like formative years, right? Joanna, your kids are 4 to 15, right? These are the times when the kids are asking questions, right? Where you have to show them, like, where you should be showing them like alternative options to what they particularly see on the street, right? So yeah, the pusher is a bad role model, but at one point in time, they didn't have many positive ones available, or the ones that they did see were just on the TV screen, not readily available in their communities, right? Like this is where Joanna's work comes in, as far as like pushing this and expanding 500,000 students. It's a big goal, but as far as I'm concerned, it's not big enough, right?
Yeah.
Like there are so many students out there who do need to have to have that kind of presence available, or program available. I remember growing up in high school, they had something called Health Corps. I don't know if that's still around. But it was really a program where it was designed to like say like get healthy food. That's when they had that big push: healthy food in, bad food out. But the idea was that they taught us how to nutrition and how to prioritize their meals and da 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 da. Most of that has gone out the window, but I remember at the time it was like, okay, I got to stop eating Chinese every day, and it worked, right? For a time. And then I joined the swim scene and I realized I was getting sexy anyway. So I was like, to hell with that. But the idea is that the positive presence was there, right? And that's how we can make an influence on our children these days, by being present and showing up and being these positive role models for them.
Right. Can I say one thing, Joanna? I want
Of
to
course.
ask you a question. Now, I know that the program is available in the Bronx right now, but is there going to be a chance where it's going to expand to all five of the boroughs? Is there something?
Yes, I'm so glad that you said that. So right now we are actually working on that. Um, Potentially, I know we'll be looking at a spot in Queens, but I know you in Brooklyn, and so there will be an expansion to Brooklyn as well. I don't have the dates as of yet, but I know we've done work, and we will be doing work out in Pennsylvania again this summer, and we have some other states that will be also looking to administer the program in. So, yes, the short answer is yes, and I'll definitely keep you posted on those dates as we move forward. And maybe we'll do this year, but um, if we don't get to do it as large as we want, we'll definitely be looking at doing 2 weeks. So we changed our model as well. We were doing a 6-week program in the Bronx. Now what we're doing is doing a 2-week model, 2 weeks in different boroughs, different places. So that's
Okay.
that.
And I have another question. Right now, you said
Yes,
that you work with high school kids, right?
yes.
Is there a time where the STEM program would turn into an elective in class that could be used towards credit for like?
Ooh, come on. You're talking spicy now. You're talking spicy. I like it. I
Thinking
like
big.
it.
Yeah, think big.
Okay. Yeah. It can, I love that you said that. We're gonna have to put you on the what is this? Ben, what is this? The mind? What? Tell me what the name of this thing is again.
Meeting of the
Meeting of the
mind. Meeting of the
minds.
mind.
Meaning of the mind. So that's another thing. If not Think and Grow Rich, yeah, Think and Grow Rich. It's called a mind. Oh dang. Anyway, I'm done. But this is what it is. Like the whole point is to think about ideas, to talk about them, and then to make them happen, right? Um, and so basically, the elective portion of things I never really thought about, but I think that's really a brilliant way to spark innovation. And maybe people can start creating their own prototype and really
So
uh,
So
do
on
that.
that point, I don't think you mentioned it earlier. Primarily right now, how is your program run? Is it an after school program? Is it a weekend program? Is it specifically just a summer program? What format does your program currently run in?
Great question. So right now, the program is running in two formats. It is a summer program, and it is also a after school, if you will, program. And so organizations will call us in and say, "Hey, we want to work with you for 14 weeks, or we want to work with you for 6 weeks, or we just want to do a workshop." So we do workshops as well, from our 24 lesson board story that we have. Um, and so that's how we work. We also, third thing, we have a roller skating and STEM class every Sunday. So students will come in, they'll understand, how the skates work, and then we'll do a 45-minute roller skating, and students learn how to do that, which is also connected to the health field, right? Hey, you want to get healthy, you want to lose weight, you want to have it and do that in a fun way. I'm always about the fun. Our motto is
Mm-hmm,
STEM time is
mm-hmm,
playtime. And
mm-hmm.
so we have three things that we do. We have the roller skating and STEM class. We do the program on a weekly or workshop basis for programs in schools, and we also do the summer program.
Okay, okay.
Chapter. Ooh, sorry about that, guys. So back to the topic of role models. Would you say that there's a lack of role models within our community? And if so, how can we change that? This is for everybody.
Um,
No, go ahead,
go
Chrissy,
ahead,
go
go ahead.
ahead.
No, go ahead, go ahead, Joanne. I was just filling in the empty air with a for a little dramatic effect. Go ahead.
No, I don't think that there's. a lack of role models in our community. I think it's more of a collaborative approach that would help to bring role models around, or I would say more showcase them, because I feel like they're here.
I was
Like,
about to say, like, I feel like
right?
there are a bunch. We do have a bunch of role models in our community. I think most of us can name at least 5 to 10 individuals with whom like we like, okay, this I want to emulate or replicate in my life. But like you said, it's lack of access too, right? We don't have the opportunities to talk to these people very often. So like workshops and like TED Talks where we be in person, and Zoom is cool, right? Or like having these like televised or like YouTube live events, so to speak, on like YouTube and like Zoom and all these other forms is great. But there's nothing like having an actual conversation where you can get to be personal and get this person's like feedback on like your personal situation. And I think that the opportunities for that are few and far in between. But not to say that there are a lack of role models in our community, because don't let them fool you. Black people are doing it, and we've been doing it. But it's just that we're not as collaborative as one would hope, right? Sometimes like the opportunity just isn't there, but it's not for lack of role models. Personally, that's my opinion on it.
Anybody else?
I would agree.
Go ahead.
I think there's a lack of role models in the community. Just more about exposure and a place for them to come together, and get get themselves out there.
Sorry, Alex, can you say that one more time? I don't think I understood. Did you say that? Say that one more time.
I said I don't think there's a lack of role models out there. I just think there's like, what did I say?
Okay.
Like a place for them to come together more, like
Right.
like showcases and stuff like that, community centers and stuff like that, where they could like actually come out and showcase like what they have to produce to the neighborhoods, the communities, and what they have to offer to the communities and stuff like that, and what they can do to bring kids and other community members involved, or you could get them involved.
And to that point also, I think that it's not that people who would typically be referred to as role models, like just to say, wouldn't want to go out into the community, right? But they can't name every school out there or like intend to visit every school. Like someone from that school has to reach out in order to organize or to orchestrate the event where they can come and see those students, right? So I think a big part of it is administration reaching out to have these role models come into these spaces. Because our kids can't do it themselves, right? And that's the part where we have to advocate for them. And just a variety, right? Because obviously there's so many different career paths, different choices out there outside of the typical. I know, like as Caribbean people, you have the doctor, the lawyer, the architect, the engineer,
the
rather,
nurse,
and then the nurse. Like you have the solid
musician.
you know what I'm saying? You have the solid 4 or 5 out there, but really the world is like expanding, right? Technology as a field is booming. Healthcare is always there, will never go away. Education, science, and all of that other stuff. So like we can diversify the type of individuals or role models that we do invite into our classrooms or into our schools, having our administrators reach out to these individuals in order to provide some type of guidance or support, or even just to like have an explanation, right? You know what they say, like your testimony can be a story for somebody else, your living testimony. So you really never know what is going to have an impact on the next generation. But the idea is the exposure. Sometimes it takes one conversation with one person on a random afternoon to completely change the trajectory of your life. They say like, oh, wait a minute, that's also an option. This person has already done it. This person has already knows the steps. Keep in contact with that individual and follow through, right? It really does like take one happenstance sometimes. I can't tell you how many occurrences in my life of just like, yo, I had this conversation on a Tuesday afternoon over lunch, like, and on a cell phone. It's like, wait a minute. You know what I mean? and my life's completely changed or switched, or I was able to pass that information along to someone else whose life was affected in a positive way because of that information. So you really just never know. It's about that exposure to multiple opportunities, I feel.
I would say that as far as role model goes, I think sometimes we have to. I think we think of the role models as like somebody who's like a staple within the community, and not realizing that there's many role models outside of just your typical pastor or community leader. There are people on the internet who have been role models to thousands of people. Um, One person I could think of is a financial guru named David Ramsey. He's a great role model to people who are in going through financial turmoil, people who want to make investments. I think sometimes we tend to just think of like someone has to be staple within the community and not thinking of like the global impact that they have, because we have the use of the internet. So one person can influence thousands. I mean, if you look at how COVID changed the entire world, we can all be in the same place in different areas, but at the same time through things like StreamYard and YouTube and things of that nature. So I don't think in our community we don't have enough role models. I think that everyone is trying. I think that there are a lot of influencers who are trying to be role models, though, or people who try to say that they're role models, but then on the back end you find out that they're trying to use funds for their own personal lifestyle. So you got to look at that aspect as well.
Yeah, I totally agree with Ray, and I agree with Alex as well. There is a sometimes you don't have the space to be a role model. You know what I mean? You may have an amazing idea for an after school program, but there's a lack of support from the faculty or the parents. You know, I remember a friend of mine, she was saying that, she came to her church with an idea of doing like an outreach program and they turned her down. And this is a woman that's like much older than me, like probably by 20 25 years, right? But she said that once she started doing her own outreach program, the church came to her and was like, "Oh, how can we get involved?" Hold on. First of all, you didn't even like the idea. Now all of a sudden you're interested because you see that it's working for her. She's doing it by herself with her own money. You know what I mean? Like people don't understand when you're putting together programs, it's going to cost. And sometimes that's why you might be at work, you might ask the faculty, is there money in the budget to do something? And sometimes if there isn't, you might just have to go out and do it yourself. If you wait for someone to give you an opportunity to be a role model, you may never become that inspiration or example for somebody that they can do it. They can change lives. So it's a lack of funds and resources, but also it's a lack of need. I don't think many people want to have role models around. They figure, we already got enough going on. Why do we need one more person? Well, if you look at this, there are many different people that are changing the world. I mean, you see exactly what Joanna is doing with this STEM program. Kids are learning something new. They're not just sitting in their classrooms all day being bored with math and science, but they're learning how to apply it in real life. They're learning about um, how to work with the skateboard and how to take it apart and put it back together. They're learning how to code music. I remember when I was in college, I took a class called CS100, and all of these buttons, like, let me tell you something. There was a code for the mute button, for the stop cam, the settings, for the invite, and for leave studio. And we had to learn how to put all those things in code because without it, none of these buttons on here work. So, and it had to have been somebody who had the idea, well, JavaScript, let me create it. If it's not around, and trust me, it wasn't around yet, but someone was like, well, I'm going to need language to create a program to work a computer. And now we use JavaScript all the time. And I'm pretty sure that the person that created JavaScript, they had a role model, somebody that they looked up to, you know. But there are a lack of role models, a lack of resources, and there's a lack of what you call it. there's lack of support. So we need to start supporting people, you know, and we need to have more role models, especially black role models.
What would you say, Gabe, that support looks like? Because we always talk about support, but what does it look like? Is it financial, physical, emotional? What's up? That's to everybody too, not just for IMC.
I
I
mean,
mean, oh,
go ahead, Alex. Go ahead. Go ahead.
I would just say like, the slightest thing as like word of mouth, like tell a friend, tell your your church, whatever, like I have a friend, this is what he's doing, this is what he has to offer, stuff like that. Post them on their social media, like word of mouth, like it gets around. Like we can use the social media and the internet to like support our friends. Like don't just like go to them asking for a discount now, like just support them, like truly support them.
Exactly. And support could be sharing something online that you see. For example, every month we do this podcast, right? And I'm just looking for one person to share. But over these, what has it been? Has it been 8 months? You would say that we've been doing this now. We started in September, right?
Yeah, about 8, almost going on 9 months, I believe.
Yeah. So there's a lack of support for the podcast, even though I tell people in advance. Like for example, even this episode, I think it was like maybe like 3 4 weeks in advance. I put it up and I told people about it and I tagged them. And sometimes it's hard to get support for that. It's hard to get support for even my music, but I put it out there, to let people know, like, hey, if you can, if there's nothing else you can do, share this, please. You know, so it's more support, whether it's financial or just being there physically and showing up. Sometimes all people need to know is that you support them. Show up, be there. You know, because that's something that we all need. We all need support, whether it be financially or someone's physical presence. And sometimes that's the best support that you can get. More people see exactly what it is that you're doing, then the next thing you know, they want to figure out how they can donate and help you to raise funds to do this program and to do that program. So we got to start supporting our entrepreneurs. We got to start supporting people who are looking like future role models and really show them, we mean business. It's time. Let's push everybody together to change the earth, to change the world. Because if there's no role models, who are we going to model ourselves after? You know, and we're all here on this earth. I mean, I could say that Christ is the greatest role model just because of the selflessness that he had in terms of just saving this world. I mean, who else do you know is going to lay their lives down for somebody else? But I just had to throw that in there. But yeah, there needs to be more, definitely more support when it comes to our role model.
In terms of support, I love what you said earlier about people just sharing. I remember there was somebody who was having an event and or releasing his first album or whatever. I know he had a YouTube channel, and I remember what he did was he like reached out to all, at least I would say at least like 50 people, put them all in a YouTube a WhatsApp chat, and was like, "Hey, I'm gonna post these videos, or can you post a video of you listening to the music and whatever." And this thing took off. Like he had like at least 1,000 people watching this video just through that support system alone, and I really realized just there just the art of being strategic about how you formulate support around what you do and getting people to be a part of that, how that really helps to move the needle. So, I realize as well sometimes as entrepreneurs, um, will like say, "Hey, can you do this or whatever?" But sometimes it's important to be like heavily strategic. It's annoying sometimes to reach out one by one. But I realized that when you call somebody instead of texting or whichever, it's usually easier for them to now feel like they personally, right, have a stake in what you're doing. So there's some strategy around, the support portion. I definitely do think that, we can always share and we can always be there. And I love what you said, Gabriel, as well as, just putting something out there or speaking on the behalf of somebody else based on the work that they're doing. Or what I saw was just commenting on a post, uh, you know, sending a message, small things like that, that, as you said, allow people to recognize, hey, I'm in your corner, or people know that they are in your corner as well. Um, so that's big. I think also as entrepreneurs, when we talk about support, uh, and I loved what Brother Ray said earlier about just being working with people outside of your comfort zone or your community. So sometimes I think as people of color, at least for me, this was something funny. I'm like, yeah, I want everybody on my team to be da 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 da. And it's like, okay, yeah, that's cool too. But then you also need to reach other folks. And so there needs to be a diversity of people in your community. Talking about comedians, I used to love Cat Williams. I'll never forget Cat Williams said, hey, black people, get y'all some white friends, get y'all some black people, Asian, Mexican, whatever it is, get you some friends outside of the same space that you're in, because that's how you're gonna stretch your network. And that's how, when you need a millionaire or billionaire in your network to pull some strings, you're able to reach those people because you're not just sitting in one space. And what I recognize as well is that we have access to everything we need. We really do. But sometimes the fear of asking paralyzes us from moving that forward. So, those are some things to consider, as we are looking and working through the support portions of our network and our work. And I know we didn't touch on fear, but that's also a big portion of hold up, with some of the work that we're doing, and to kind of stop progress, or self sabotage, all of those things, right? So just being intentional about how we move forward and being strategic about it as well, is very helpful.
Yeah, that was actually going to be my last question of the night. Do you guys think that role models should be vulnerable or show any level of vulnerability?
Ooh. I think now more than ever, the vulnerability is appreciated, right? I think at one point in time, you expected all the people to come before us to have all the answers, to have it all figured out, to just be like real stoic and just be like real sure. But the older we get, the more we realize like everyone's just figuring it out. And role models who are real open about it and say, like, listen, girl, I just winged it and it happened to work. Right. I took a chance. I spoke to this person. I knew it was a risk and I took it anyways. It may not work that way next time, but it worked this time, right? Like we took a chance and we did it. Like I just someone who's like, all right, like it worked for this person, it might work for me too. Or just like if I do it the same way, I might get the same outcome. Being vulnerable, I think, uh is an attribute that not many people do really well. And when it's done, I can definitely have a real appreciation for it. Like how many actresses and actors have come out and said, like, listen, during that time of my life, I was a mess, right? And showing that like they didn't always have it together, but they made it anyways, right? Like through perseverance, through whatever the case may be, but they pulled it together and they were successful in the end. So having that touch of vulnerability, I think it's a benefit, and not a hindrance. Especially in this age of like mental health, and everyone's talking about it and starting not to shy away from the difficulties of life. And you don't have to be strong all the time, or like it's okay that if you were like going through it, right? just the fact that you went through it and made it on the other side is a benefit, and showing people that it is possible can't get better than that.
Christy actually touched on my point that I was gonna talk about, like the mental health aspect on it. Um, we are human, right? And not everybody knows everything. Not everybody knows have all the knowledge of the world. You know, if somebody say, if I'm sitting next to somebody in the room and they say, I know everything in the world, that's not that I'll move away from that person, right? Um, Vulnerability is part of human nature. I think that, it takes strength to show vulnerability. A lot of people bottle it up, like, and try to act like robots, but truly, vulnerability brings more respect, I would say, and it opens more clear lines of communication, I would say, you know, and like to really send a message across.
IMC, Joanna.
Okay. All right. So as I looked at the definition of vulnerable, it says susceptible to physical or emotional attack or harm. I think in almost in every way we're vulnerable, and I think it's important to be vulnerable, um, especially as a role model, because it shows people that um, you're human just like anybody else, and that you're gonna go through some tough stuff. Like living on this earth, don't expect to be here and not go through criticism. You will face criticism from people. You will have people that verbally attack you. I have people that have attacked me verbally on numerous occasions for the commentaries that I do online. And sometimes I go back and forth with them, but then I'm like, what do I have to prove to these people? People are going to be upset. They're either going to like the content or not. I have to learn
Can't please everybody.
exactly. And I learned that a long time ago. Like you try to please your parents, try to please friends. You can't please everyone. Either you're going to make someone happy, you're going to make someone upset. But the thing is, make sure that you're happy. Make sure that you're not the one that's upset, because people will do anything
Mhm.
to get you out of your element and to make you feel like you're the worst person in the world. And narcissists are great at that. So, I mean, we all got to have thick skin. Even when I'm at work and somebody gives a critique of how they think I am, or someone may tell me something that's truthful, yeah, I don't like hearing it. It's uncomfortable, but I have to be open to the idea of, well, maybe I made a mistake here. Let me deal with it the best way that I can. And sometimes you got to have on that face like nothing's bothering you, even though it is. And just show and just uh, sh- uh, soldier through and push on. Yeah.
Sorry, y'all. My light just oh the god, the light just went out. I think vulnerability is very important. Um, and I also think you have to be careful because you need to. I don't want to say be calculated with your vulnerability, but you may want to be a little tactful and know how much you share. Sometimes people can be vulnerable and overshare, and it's like, okay, this might be too much
Excessive.
information right now, right? Or you
Hmm.
know, shot yourself in the
Hmm.
foot, in the eye. You just like, dang, how do I come back from that? So I think being vulnerable is important, and I also think just being mindful of how much you share in that space of vulnerability is very imperative. You can share things immediately or you can share things after, you are the person that's responsible for how you frame your story. And it's not about being fake or anything like that. Like, but you also have to be very careful, because sometimes being I don't want to say too vulnerable, but oversharing can also be a challenge and also kind of mess you up in some way, shape, or form. So just, being intentional about what you're sharing in your vulnerability is also very imperative too.
All good points, and I appreciate them all. Um,
That's a
any
great point. That
final?
last one. Mhm.
It really was. Any final words? Actually, final words, I should say. We'll start with Alex.
Hmm. I just want to say thank you guys for having me. It's my first time on the podcast, and it was a pleasure meeting everyone. Um, Joanna, I'm looking forward to possibly connecting in the future and you know doing some things with you. Thank you for having me.
Christy, final words.
Um, how you ask people if they have any final words in this? Are they, hey, you go. Make that make sense. No,
Because I'm the moderator, that's why.
yeah, but do better, do better.
I'm doing
Final
great right
words.
now.
Are
This is
we
this
who?
is me being
Are
vulnerable
we?
right now.
Is
I'm
it?
scared. Help
Is
me.
it? You're scared? Okay. Any final words? I think overall the idea that no, we should all aspire to be a role model to somebody in our lives, right? Live our lives in ways that can be an example for others, be a support um, to those coming up behind us, right? I know a lot of us work in fields where we interact with others on the daily. So just making sure that, or being a resource, I think is a great is a great option. I wanted to ask Joanna, how can other people reach you? I know you and Alex plan to connect as far as like summer program, whatever the case may be. But for our listeners out there, what's the best way they can contact you as far as like getting into a program or having you come to do a workshop or a brief stint, however your format is?
Thank you so much for asking that question. You can reach us at Daley, that's Daley, Smith, SMITH, Inc., Inc.com. So DaleySmithInc.com has all the classes that we offer, more information about myself, our programs, the summer program that's coming up. Thank you so much, Gabriel. The uh, summer and roller skate program that we have, and just more information about what we do. So that's one way you can reach out. I'll be more than excited to connect with you. There's a contact list form there as well, or you could just reach me at dailysmithstem at gmail.com. That's DALEY Smithstem at gmail.com. Thank you for
Okay, thank you
asking
so
that question.
much. No, it was an absolute pleasure. I'm glad that you were able to take the time to come on the show and talk with us.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Gabe, Joanna, final thoughts?
I'll let Joanna go first and then I'll go.
All right. Thank you. Ladies first. Okay, gentlemen.
Right?
um,
Let it never be
We try
said.
out here. We try.
Let it
we
never be said that
try.
ain't no gentleman.
Y'all doing good. You're doing good. You're doing good.
Thank
I would say just I love everybody's portion of talk today about positive role models. I would just say, sit with yourself and see what are the things that you really enjoy doing, and think about the people that you've impacted, and write down those names. Think about the people who've impacted you. I recently did that exercise as well, and write down those names as well, and reach out to them and just say, hey, thank you, for what you've done, and really, I'd say build those relationships that you have now, and think about the relationships you want to build in the future, and build those as well, with role models who you know and don't know. Get on LinkedIn and find somebody that you admire and say, hey, can I talk with you? And do that. There's a young lady, her name is Yamali. She has a program called STEM for Dance. She went to MIT, and one of my I didn't even talk about that role model, but she's the president of American Society of Civil Engineer. Marcy reached out to me and said, hey, you need to connect with her. And when I reached out to her, she's in New York City, but that's such an amazing program, combining STEM and dance together, right? Thank you, STEM for Dance. And reach out to people like that. I didn't know her, but somebody recommended me to her. Reach out to There's another young lady, Melissa Majors, who is a DNI person, in her field, and amazing speaker, and I just reached out to her on LinkedIn, and now we're like really good friends. She lives in Texas, she came to New York. So reach out to some people outside of your comfort zone and really stretch yourself. They call them stretch exercises, right? For any of the educators. So I hope those three things really help. These are things that I'm doing. My goal is to be a millionaire in the next 2 years. And
In Jesus'
so
name.
I'm really like, okay, well, I need to stretch.
Mm-hmm.
I need to stretch myself because you can only grow as much as somebody has grown themselves, right? So I need to put myself in position around those who have made their first million, or made their few millions or their billions, whatever the case is, so that I can be taught in that way. Um, a last thing I would say, I'm really excited about our roller skating and STEM camp, our mathematics and coding camp that's coming up this summer, June 28th. It starts until August the 13th. We're going to be doing it in different sectors. So just stay in contact with us, get on our website, see what's going on so that you too can be a part of the program. That's Daley, Daley Smith, SMITHINC, Inc. Thank you.com. And we really look forward to connecting with you. We're looking to expose 500,000 students to STEM in the next 5 to 7 years. And we can only do that by collaborating with you. Thank you all so much for having me on this amazing podcast. And Gabriel, I'll be sharing all the podcasts as they come up. And so that's my challenge to the squad here as well, that we are sharing Gabriel's content as we continue to speak to other people about ours as well. So thank you.
All right. Last words. This was a very informative episode of the podcast, and I just like the energy that everyone brought. But it brought closer to home the fact that all of us, well, no matter what we do, or no matter what our profession is, we all gotta strive. No, let me put it this way: we all got to be careful of everything that we do because these kids are watching us, right? You never know if you're going to be a role model or not. But some of these kids, they look up to you, so you got to be careful in every way possible. The things you say, the actions you do, and be the best role model that you can. You don't have to do anything fancy, but just guide. Learn how to take roles in leadership. Start making changes for a better you. And you're sitting at home on the couch all day. Why don't you do something that's gonna change your future? Now let me stop. But nah, just basically just be you and strive for the best. Strive for excellence. That's all I got to say.
All right. In wrapping up, I would say as far as role model goes, we often talk about being role models to children, but we also forget that we can also be role models to adults as well. Whether they be our peers, they be older than us, younger than us, we should all strive to have try to have a positive influence on the world. Start off with family first, then set yourself abroad. And with that being said, I want to thank everybody for joining us tonight on Meeting on the Minds podcast, episode 8. I want to thank Alex, Christy, IMC, and our special guest, Joanna Smith from Daley Smith STEM. Please like, share, and subscribe on your way out. And we are gone.
Yes, that's right. Take care, y'all. Thanks for joining us. We out. Peace.